to see Charles visibly becoming, in the public's eyes, the successor to the Queen. Isn't there a way that he could have been doing this trip? Surely someone could have said, actually, we should be doing this. This is a big... It's not like, it was just because he was a younger royal. It's because it was such a significant trip.
It is a significant trip. I mean, who made the decision? As you said, it's possibly the government. I don't always know what was on there, but I think the interesting was last year they were saying that Prince William wasn't doing enough, and he wasn't seen to be doing enough engagements. Where certainly we've got him doing this hugely historic, significant trip. That might be one of the reasons. Maybe it's to kind of say he does do engagements. This is obviously a hurry and bold one, and it also shows the trust that the Queen and his father have put with him to know that he can carry out that engagement. And it's, I think this is the reality. He's a young royal that's up to kind of one day he will be king, and he's also got to show, like his father. And his father over the years has done many significant trips and things that will be required of him as one day he will be king. And I think that all this doing is just making sure that the next generation show that they're up to the job as well.
You worked in royal circles, clearly, as a butler. Do you think it upsets Charles? Do you think it upsets him when he hears people come on and say, actually, we don't want you to be king, we'd rather have your son be king? Does he really want it that badly, or do you think he's just proud that people would like his son to do the job?
I think it's a difficult one, because I think the reality is that anyone, if you're kind of being criticised for, either not doing enough or doing too much, it is frustrating. It's what he possibly feels about it. That's anyone can get. I think if it was me, I'd feel quite upset the fact that 1 minute, you get told what a great job you did, the next minute, oh, you're not doing a good job. But I think that's again the reality of being a royal. That sadly, like anybody actually, not just royal celebrities, always come up with the kind of interest as to what you're doing. Are you doing enough? If you do something wrong, God help you, because the media will always say.
Exactly, but does it really affect someone like Charles who's had it all his life, or do they just shrug their shoulders and go, it's part of the job?
No, I think that the Queen can see it as part of the job. I mean, as you just said, he's been doing it his whole life, and he's turned to 70 this year. I think it's easy to say that he's quite a bit of experience, and I don't think it's something that's going to really bother him, because sadly, it kind of comes up every now and again. In fact, possibly every year.
But then isn't that part of the problem, that actually, if it did bother him more, maybe he would do more? And sometimes the public do like to feel that these people are really bothered. They actually want him to make the effort, potentially.
I agree, but I think again, and I'm going to go with what I read for last year, with the amount of engagement things he's done, he is doing a huge amount.
We're just not hearing about it.
No, that's the problem. We're not hearing about it, and it's only because the younger royals at this point in time are of a huge interest, and it's really sad. It's a really upsetting, but that's where it was.
Grant, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. We appreciate you coming on. From the Royal Butler there, Grant Harold, the author of the Royal Butler's Rule Book, giving us a little bit more of an insight into how the royals are thinking and what they think about this issue. Leslie in Deanshanger, you heard all that. What do you think? Should we just skip to William now then?
No, absolutely not. I think Charles needs to be king, and the reasons behind that, for me anyway, are that William needs to spend time with his wife and his children, and enjoy them. Charles doesn't really have a huge amount of time to spend with the boys. After Diana died. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, you say that, Leslie, but come on, they get a lot of time. Most people, you think of most working fathers, the amount of time they get, they will have help. He won't be away all the time, and there are ways around this. It won't be like the Queen's generation where she left them at home and went off around the Commonwealth. He'll be able to bring his children with him. I'm not sure that that's an argument for these modern day royals.
No, I disagree, I'm afraid. Regardless of how often they go away and whether they're allowed to take the children with them or whatever, I just think that Charles deserves his time as king. He's waited long enough for it. One of the callers earlier on said about Camilla. I must admit I'm not a Camilla fan, but I still think Charles should be king. William will have his chance later on, and to be
if his dad said he didn't want to be king, then they were in an altogether different situation then, aren't they?
Well, would be, yeah. That would be a tricky situation. But no, I love the Eagles. I love Harry. I love William. I love all of them. And I just think they should all just be allowed to get on and let Charles be king when the time comes.
Leslie, thank you very much for calling us up this morning. Angela's in Markyate. Angela, hello. So, Charles needs his time, really. I mean, come on, he's trained for this his whole life. You can't literally just jump over him and give it to his son, surely now.
I think we can. I think the thing of a king is someone we can respect and someone we know is an honest man. And David is right to that when he did what he did.
When you say that, are you talking about...
He deceives, he's deceitful. William is honest, young, and I agree that they need time with their family, but as you say, they get that time. They get that time, and that's what they're born to.
When you say, I mean, that's to come on and say, you know, that the future king, you claimed he's deceitful. What are you referring to the fact that he had an affair? What are you referring to there?
I'm happy, not only that he had an affair, it was all from the beginning, from when he married Diana. It just shows what a two-faced, deceitful person he is.
But Diana, you know, she had her affairs as well. She has now. We've read stories about, you know, there were tricky situations with her as well. This was a marriage. This was a relationship, and things like this, you know, happen. Surely that's not a reason for him not to be king. That's his personal life.
I know it's his personal life, but it's also him as a person. When the people, you know, need to respect this man, and we, the royals, we look up to, and we should be proud of them. You can't be proud of Charles. How can you be proud of Charles with that woman next to him if he was king? No way.
So Queen Camilla's not having it. No, okay.
Like the first lady, it would fill me with horror. Absolute horror.
Okay, Angela, thank you very much for calling us up this morning. Strong views here, strong views on who should be the next king. Sandra's in Wendover this morning. Sandra, you heard all that. What do you think?
Oh, hi, Stuart.
Hello.
I feel strongly that people know strongly that William and Kate will be the next people's king and queen. People's king and queen.
Do you think then, do you think that there's a scenario that exists where someone needs to sit Charles down and go, look, for the future of the royal family, we think this could be the right decision? Would that be fair?
Yes, I do feel strongly that William was so warm and such the people's king and queen.
Sandra, thank you very much for giving us your opinion there on that. Could you do that? Scott is from the Constitutional Monarchy Association, so could probably answer that question for us. Could there be a scenario where the royal family would sit down and go, this is the decision we made, and will you be the next king?
Good morning, everyone.
Stuart.
Good morning, Stuart. Yes, I think that it's sort of false precedent that we could assume that William is more popular than Charles. Now, William is very popular, but the overall choice of the people for the next king is the Prince of Wales. That makes sense. He's popular, he's ready. One of the best things about a constitutional monarchy is that it doesn't throw out bizarre election results. It's very predictable. We know what's happening. And one of the reasons that our constitution has survived for so long is the predictability and stability of it.
Is he popular?
Yes, he's very popular. He's one of the most popular royals regularly, and I really enjoyed the chat you had earlier about engagement, and the royal club, I think, made a very important point. He is
Scott, but and you might be able to shed some light on have seen the royal family become much more aware, if you like, of how to present themselves to the media, and they become much more savvy in that respect in terms of who they send where. The sort of, I mean, look, obviously, with Harry and Meghan, how that was done initially. So why aren't they doing this more with Charles? Why aren't they looking at these big high-profile trips? Because had it been Charles there this week, I think we would have had a very different opinion this morning from people on him, because I think they would have seen him on the world stage in a situation where he can maybe play to his strengths with all his experience, and that would really have helped him this week. But instead, we're talking about William.
Well, we are, but let's not forget one of the things that the Prince of Wales has done while William has been away is he's visited Salisbury. He's made a very high-profile visit to Salisbury. He's had a really rotten time over the past few months, and he's been there with Camilla and tried to drum up a bit of public support and show everyone that Salisbury's a visit. So I think that the royal family has a huge role to play in projecting our influence overseas, but let's not forget we also have an important role in boosting the royal family. So I think his visit to Salisbury is just as important, and by all accounts is a great success.
Yes. If you were sat in front of Prince Charles now, and you've heard the callers that we've had this morning, what advice would you give him? Because we were saying earlier, the royals are sort of used to this, and sometimes they just go, well, it comes with the job, and they can sometimes, if you like, have to ignore public opinion in that respect, because they go, well, actually, this is constitutionally right, and this is how it is, and I just need to do a good job, and that will be fine. Is that enough? Because it clearly doesn't seem to be working with Prince Charles at the moment.
Well, as I say, I have to disagree. I think that's quite true. I don't want the judge of the public wants Prince Charles to be the next king, because they guess that that's the constitutional institution.
What would you say to him, though? What would you say to him? Should he be doing it, just carry on as you are?
Keep up the good work. I mean, I don't know how much you read reports out here. So I read this week, but every day this week, Prince of Wales has been doing something exceptional. Who's really busy, and actually I wonder whether the public I've never always quite respected the Prince of Wales, Prince of Wales is really good one. In fact, I think we didn't get on with it. He didn't get on with this common engagement. Some of them high profile, some of them not. He's just getting on with it behind the scenes. I like that.
Scott Pepper from the Constitutional Monarchy Association, thank you very much for sharing some light on that this morning. You've still got 10 minutes to come and share your opinion. Who do you think should be the next king? 1-888-00. Now, big continue this morning.
Three Counties People Awards.
Music Radio is celebrating the exceptional people of Ben's Hearts and Bucks. We're asking you to nominate them. The Three Counties People Awards. We want to hear about those people who go the extra mile, who care about the community and always put others above themselves. If you know someone like that, you can nominate them in one of 11 categories. Just go to bbc.co.uk/Three Counties Radio and fill in a nomination form. The closing date for nominations is Friday, the 31st of August. So be quick.
The Three Counties People
The
Awards.
Three Counties People Awards, celebrating the people of Ben's Hearts and Bucks.
There he is, Jamie. So we'll be back here on Monday morning from 9 o'clock. Meanwhile, it's me, Stuart Miles, sitting in for asking you the question this morning. Who do you think should be next king? It's so divided still. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you would have thought by now there would have been a huge attempt to change this divide in opinion. Maybe stick Charles in situations where we aren't having callers come on and say, look, it's just not happening in my eyes. We'd like it to jump to William. What do you think this morning? Paul's in Bournemouth. And Paul, you think that Charles should be king?
Yes, good morning, Stuart.
Good morning.
I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a couple of occasions, and he really impressed me as a person, as a human being, and the interest that he took in the events and so on. But I think, yes, he definitely should be the king. I think he deserves it. And I think also we've got to remember that because of his age now, his son will become king anyway when he's probably only in his 40s or maximum probably 50s, which is a lovely time to become king. So his son will get it anyway. It's just a matter of giving that breathing space and letting Charles have his day in the sun.
See, I've heard a lot of people say that who've met him, what a lovely guy he is. And I've seen it myself in situations where I've seen him in the media, but a lot of people this morning still can't get over this whole Camilla, Diana scenario and the reflection it has on him, his personality, all these years later. Do you think that's really the nub of what's going on here still?
Well, I guess this really annoys me because they, for instance, Diana and he really was. And we only look upon Charles as a bad guy in that relationship.
But also, if you put Charles in scenarios, for example, this week, had we seen Charles visiting Israel and Palestine, had we seen him showing off the huge amount of diplomatic skills, which I'm sure he has learned over the years, because let's face it, he's been doing this job and waiting for so many years. Had we seen that this week, we may have been talking about that, and we wouldn't have all this going on, maybe so much, and talking about all this stuff still. And that's my point. He should be doing stuff in relation to. Listening to that, well, she doesn't have to step down constitutionally. You know, she wants to continue in that role, which of course she's entitled to do. But Carol in Membershall's been listening to what you said now. But Carol, you'd quite like William to be king, wouldn't you?
Yes, that woman cannot be queen. No way on whatsoever that woman with anything to do with that. And I don't want Charles to be king either.
Yeah, but hang on, which is more important to you? Is it really? Is what you're saying is that you don't want Camilla to be king? Is that why you're kind of having Charles not to be king?
No. I don't want him to be king either. Give it to William. You must, because he's nice. He's a lovely man. No, I think Charles is getting
So,
now.
but so is Charles. I mean,
Yeah, but what he did, he's supposed to be the head of the church. And what did he do? He did the dirty on his wife. And that ain't nice. So he should have stuck up to his mother and said, look, if I can't marry Camilla, I don't want to have nothing to do with being king. That's what he should have done. Walked away.
but can't you see that this is a role he's been preparing for all his life? Can't you see that he is supremely qualified to take over all those aspects of the job that, as a public, we really have no idea the amount of work that the Queen does?
But do you think she doesn't want him to be king? Have you thought of that? Deep down, she might not want him to be king.
Well, that would be a very harsh thing for a mother to think about a son, surely. I mean, I'm sure in all correspondence I've seen that she... I mean, let's face it, he just took over as leader. They voted that he would become leader of the Commonwealth, and publicly we saw that happen, and publicly we saw her give him his blessing.
But yeah, but long as she ain't queen, love.
It's just Camilla, isn't it?
No way that woman can be queen. No.
Okay.
She ain't badly. She ain't badly. She can't be queen. Oh, no, that's unthinkable. No.
Carolyn Meppershall, thank you very much. Carolyn Meppershall there, giving us her opinion very straight down the line. Clearly not heading for any kind of honours in the future once Charles becomes king. Pruin Leegrave says Prince Charles has the right to be king with Camilla by his side. And basically says to people like Carol, Diana lovers, you need to get over it. William will have his time, respect the royal family by getting behind them and not divide a family who all work hard for this country. And Leslie in Barton says, what is the matter with those bitter women? Charles and Camilla have behaved impeccably since marrying. Thank you so much for all your views this morning on that. More to come this morning on the JVS show.
Travel news, beds, hearts and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Starting on the A1M, where there's a lane closure between Junction 7 for Stevenage and Junction 6 for Welland Garden City, all because of an accident there. It looks like a 3-car accident, and that's been making things heavy in both directions. A lot of people slowing down on the northbound side to take a look. In Great Anwell, the A414, that has a lane closure eastbound just before the Anwell roundabout, all because of an accident there. And taking a look at the M25, just a little solid spot anti-clockwise before the M40. I'm Amante Felkinston for BBC Three Counties Radio.
Why, thank you very much, Amante. And this is Stuart Miles this morning sitting in for JVS after 11. I'm talking about family GPs. Does anyone still have one? Research suggests that having the same doctor can be linked to a longer life, but does anyone still have the luxury of a family GP? But next, do children need to learn a second language? Research published this week shows that less than half of pupils in the UK are choosing to take a language at GCSE, and that figure is on the decline. And with great services like Google Translate, do children need to learn a second language? We'd love to hear your views. It's all on the way up to 10 o'clock this morning. The latest news headlines next.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 10 o'clock. I'm Simon Oxley. The headlines. Milton Keynes MP says economic prospects good despite job losses. Watford man jailed for driving into moped rider, and carbon dioxide shortage to hit supply of crumpets.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Milton Keynes MP says economic prospects in the new city are strong despite hundreds more job losses being announced. Yesterday, Homebase confirmed 300 jobs would go at a support centre following the jobs already lost this year at the likes of Tesco Direct, Coca-Cola and House of Fraser. Ian Stewart is the MP for Milton Keynes South.
The underlying strength of the Milton Keynes economy is very good. We are still one of the fastest growing parts of the country. The jobs market locally is very buoyant. So I don't think that, although this is very challenging for this sector and people who work there, it's not symptomatic of a wider malaise.
A man from Watford who caused horrific injuries when he drove his father's BMW into a moped rider has been jailed for 13 years. 23-year-old John Boyle Matcham was cleared of the attempted murder of Jamie Clark, but convicted of causing grievous bodily harm with intent. More from Jane Killick.
The court heard there'd been bad feeling between the two over a girl from many years ago. After a confrontation earlier in the day, Jamie Clark was riding his scooter along North Approach Road in Watford when John Boyle Matcham swerved to hit him. Mr. Clark was left with broken bones, brain seizures, and can only walk with a crutch. In addition to the prison sentence, Boyle Matcham, who fled the scene, has also been banned from driving for 9.5 years.
EU leaders are discussing Brexit today without Theresa May. She left this morning after warning that their approach to the negotiations was risking the safety of European citizens. The Prime Minister said EU officials were seeking to exclude Britain from systems for sharing criminal records and DNA profiles. The case of an 82-year-old man from Milton Keynes is to be raised directly with the Home Secretary as the repercussions of the Windrush scandal continue. Clayton Barnes has been told he will have to wait 5 years to get citizenship because he's been out of the country for 8 years. He says that was because he was blocked from returning. The Parliamentary Committee has today described the Home Office's treatment of members of the Windrush generation as shocking. The food and drink industry is warning shoppers to expect less choice during the next few days because of supply problems with carbon dioxide. Beer has already been affected, but other items, including crumpets, also stand to be hit. Here's Rob Young.
A shortage of commercially produced carbon dioxide means some drinks are not available in pubs. Scotland's biggest abattoir has closed until further notice, and meat processors are considering shortening sell-by dates because packaging will contain lower levels of CO2. Now, Warburton's has had to halt production at 2 of its 4 factories making crumpets. The Food and Drink Federation says supplies of certain products will start to run low after the weekend. It says consumers should expect to see fewer chicken and pork dishes, carbonated drinks, and not as many packaged bakery goods on the shelves.
In sport, England will play Colombia in the last 16 of the World Cup on Tuesday after last night's 1-0 defeat to Belgium meant they finished second in their group. The weather, cloud clearing to leave another hot and sunny day, a maximum temperature 28 degrees Celsius, and you can get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3counties.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
3 o'clock, it's Roberto Perrone.
From midday, it's Nick Coffer.
Now, it's Tim Wheeler on BBC 3 Counties Radio.
No, it isn't. It's Stuart Miles sitting in for Tim, sitting in for JWS. It's very confusing, but Jonathan will be back on Monday. And still to come this morning, from 11, I'm talking about family GPs and how seeing the same doctor can apparently mean a longer life. That's according to researchers at the University of Exeter. They found that the human aspect of medical practice was potentially life-saving, but it's been neglected. Well, does anyone still have a family GP anymore? Do they? Do you know anyone who does? But in this hour, learning a second language, is it something that children need to learn? And should training lessons be compulsory for all new dog owners? I would love to hear your views this morning. As ever, you can call us 08081 00 8800, or you can text me 81333. And finally, of course, you can always email the show, email JVS show at bbc.co.uk.
The JVS Show.
Call Jonathan Vernon Smith now.
08081 008800.
The JVS Show.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
And some more of your calls after this from the Detroit Emeralds.
Feel the need of me.
minutes after 10, BBC Three Counties Radio. I'm Stuart Miles, sitting in for Jonathan Burnsmith. He is back on Monday. Picked a good week, didn't he, to have off. The weather is beautiful once again, and lots more to come on this morning's show. As a senior police officer says, dog owners who can't control their pets should be forced to take awareness courses. We'll be asking, should training lessons be compulsory for all new dog owners? But first, do you think children need to learn a second language? Research published this week shows that less than half of pupils in the UK are choosing to take a language at GCSE, and that figure is on the decline. In 2002, 76% of 16-year-olds were sitting a language exam, typically French, Spanish or German, but just 15 years later that figure has actually dropped to 47%, and this goes against what the government wants to see. Now, its goal is to have 3/4 of 16-year-olds learning a second language, but there are no plans to make it compulsory. So why the drop? Do we need to blame things like Google Translate for the decrease? Or is it that youngsters just can't see the point now? Tell me this morning, do children need to learn a second language? And also tell me about the language that you learnt as well, and whether you found that useful, how you used it. 08081 00 8800 813 33 on the text. Do you really think children need to learn a second language? Chris McGovern is from the Campaign for Real Education. Chris, good morning to you.
Morning, Stuart.
Well, fascinating figures there. Do they really need to learn this now? We've got that Google Translate, which is actually quite good, isn't it? Especially when you're on holiday and you don't know anything.
Actually, it is not that good. It's a sign of the times, I think, about decline in certain areas of our education system, that the majority of youngsters aren't doing well during the language of GCSE. You know, really important for our economy, particularly post-Brexit, that we have young people who can speak foreign languages. I mean, certainly people will sell us things using English, no problem with that. But if you want to sell them, you want to sell things in Germany or China or to France or Spain, you know, you need to speak the local language, and certainly the evidence I've seen, and it has been publicised, is that if you have linguists on your staff and you're selling abroad, you will sell more of your products. So from a practical point of view, it's really, really important. And you know, what's really saddening in the story is that there's still about 47% of young people are doing foreign languages at GCSE, but a lot of those kids are well off. Who come from middle class backgrounds, private school. Look, I spent half my career in state schools and half in the private school. But I finished up in a private school, a primary school actually, what they call a prep school. And in my prep school, all the children of the age of 5 had to learn foreign languages. We were the first school in the country to actually teach Mandarin. Now, some of you might say, well, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? 5-year-olds learning Mandarin Chinese. Well, it wasn't ridiculous because Mandarin is a tonal language, and these young children can pick up that tonal variation much more readily than older children or adults. So we were the first country in Britain to teach Mandarin to 5-year-olds, but also youngsters had to learn French, and they had to learn classical language, either Latin or Greek, but they also then had the option of 4 other languages. So we had 7 languages on offer. A lot of children did 4 of those languages. They could do Arabic, they could do German and so forth. And the school was incredibly popular. We had 7 applicants for each place.
But that's interesting, isn't it, that you say that, and such choice. But then for those, and you mentioned this, who are in the state system, that figure has dropped, and they are not taking these languages through to GCSE. So why is that?
Yeah, well, it's absolutely right. And one of the reasons, of course, is a teacher shortage, because we haven't produced enough language graduates. We haven't got enough language graduates in the classroom. And the government have tried to do something about this. What they've said is that all primary schools should be teaching 7-year-olds and above a foreign language, but often it's difficult to find someone who can teach the language. So they might have a teacher who themselves only did GCSE, not really in a great position to teach the language. So there is a real problem in recruiting enough teachers.